Have you ever felt like you might be leaving money on the table with your current e-commerce store? Unfortunately, you probably are, but this is why you need to pay attention. Now, the global e-commerce market is continuing to expand, and this year alone, it should hit 6.33 trillion, and that is going to continue to grow. And Shopify is saying that this is going to grow at a rate of 8.8% every single year. Now, that means by 2026, we're going to be at somewhere around 7.41 trillion, again, based on Shopify data. Which is just astronomical. But here is the kicker. The standard conversion rate at the moment is around 1.6%. That's supposedly going to go up to about 1.88 next year, potentially into the 2.1, 2.3 following year after that. But that's still a really, really low conversion rate. So if you want to slice that $1 trillion pie or £1 trillion pie, then you need to make sure you watch this video, learn about all these conversion tricks that you can really skyrocket your conversion rates with, and hopefully get more sales. Let's get going. Okay, so as I'm starting to put this video together, I was trying to look at options that don't involve lots of developer time, right? Because it's the most expensive resource you have. If you can do some of these things yourself, we're going to save loads of money, right? So that's what I've tried to look at with a lot of options here. Now, unfortunately, the first one I would also say is I'm saving time with a developer. I'm going to make your life a little bit harder or potentially more expensive in another way. Now, if you have a trusty iPhone, you might be able to make this work if you've got a creative eye. But for the rest of us, we might need to actually get a photographer. But let's get into tip one. Tip one, great photography. And what I mean by great photography isn't just a case of showcasing off your products in a really visual way. It's really thinking about what is important to the user and showcasing those to them. So you'll see here, it's really nice to see this pair of trousers in situ, so you get to see how they fit. But when you sit down, obviously certain trousers will ride up slightly, so it's really nice to be able to show that. We've also got shots of the front to show the overall detailing. We've got shots of the butt, I guess, but at the back for you to be able to see, again, detailing on there, and even the zip open for you to be able to have an understanding of how that looks, as well as just a photo of the overall fabric so you can have a look at that in detail. This is what I mean by quality photography. Yes, it also helps that these are really beautifully shot and obviously spent an absolute fortune on these, but we can create some of this at home by just thinking through what is important to the user and making sure it's really visually showcased. Tip number one. Okay, sticking along the point of view of visual, we're now going to be looking at from a point of view of video. If we can get video on there, that's great. The reason I've shown this is there's two ways of doing this, right? There's the cheaper way and the more expensive way. Obviously, they have this lovely option. You don't hear what she's saying, right? But she's talking through it, she explains it, she goes into detail, and that will be good for some people. But for the other one, again, grabbing off phones, these are really, really nice. These are just almost taken straight from social media, right? Different things pulling in. Yes, there's a little bit of hair, but that can be done in one of those simple mobile kind of systems to be able to add in the captions. It's a really, really nice way of doing it, and there's lots of different alternatives here. So don't be too scared off by doing some, I guess, not as professional looking video, because it's a really nice way of showing it. Even this one here, this is just obviously taken straight from TikTok. It's put on here, it's showcasing what it is, and it gives so much context. So please don't be scared of that one, and that is definitely tip number two. So if you're selling something a little bit more expensive or a little bit bigger, one thing to really take into account, and this is going to be tip number three, is when we're at this kind of point of view potentially buying, give the user an indication of how long it's going to take to arrive. So you'll see here it says delivery can be within 22 can be within 2 days, which can be really, really beneficial. Also means you can change the delivery option that is going to be there as well. It's a really nice way of doing it. So it's things like this can be really, really beneficial, because some people might need things sooner rather than later. And especially if it's really big, these users have this kind of like internal monologue of like, well, it's massive. You know, if I'm ordering a table and chair set, it's really, really nice, but how long is it going to take to get here? It's something that they can be concerned of. So if we just can answer that in a really visual way on the product page, we're going to drive up those conversion rates. Now, I'll also say, even if it says it's 2-3 weeks away from being delivered, at least they know, okay? So don't worry too much about hiding that information away. You know, you can order a sofa and it can take 3 months to arrive. People are used to that, so please do bear that in mind. So the next big tip, and I'm also going to caveat this, that it depends if you like the idea of this or not, okay? But one big thing to increase conversion rates is having an option like Klarna where the user can split those payments over a couple of months if they wish to. Now, the reason some people like this and some people don't is because we're allowing people to get credit on things that in theory they shouldn't really be buying without it. Now, for something really expensive, you know, like a furniture set or a laptop, I completely appreciate that this is probably worth it. The argument of should you be buying a t-shirt that you can't afford at 50 quid and splitting it over Klarna, probably up for discussion, right? But that's completely down to you. And the point of this video is to increase conversion rates, and it is proven to do that. Now, before we go any further in this particular video, if there's any websites that you wish I could do a deep dive into, please put them in the comment below. You don't even need to put the full web address, just give me the name of the company and I will find them, unless it's something super generic like car company. But anyway, put them below and we'll go from there. So our next tip is adding live chat to your website. Now, I appreciate this isn't necessarily scalable and you can't do this all the time, but I wouldn't be surprised the number of people when you can add a live chat onto your system and it is a genuine human and not just a bot to be able to help that person, ask them some questions, you will see an increase in conversion rates. The easiest way I would say to do this is to look for those hot points when people are currently buying that are already at their highest, and just try and be online for 1 or 2 hours a week in those hot points and see if you can drive up that conversion rate even higher. You'll be surprised. Also, there's no issue with then just removing it, turning it off and it not being there. Now, if this starts to work really well and you start to get a really high conversion rate off the back of it, then obviously we can turn this into something way better. It can become someone's full-time role. Not the most exciting role, but it could really help. And so that's something to definitely think about. Okay, now we've got page speed. A really key one to think about. I'm not necessarily going to show up an example here to show you. We all know what it's like when we're trying to hunt through on our mobile phones and something's taking an age for us to kind of load through. So we have to consider that as overall page speed. Your main culprits are normally video and imagery, right? Now there is definitely more to it than just those things, but if you can make sure that all of those are really highly compressed, and there's lots of plugins that can do this now, that's going to really help. And also make sure things like your video are on CDNs, so a content delivery network. So even if you have your video coming from YouTube or Vimeo or somewhere else like that, it's not directly on the site. It's going to speed up the entire thing. It's going to be better for the user. Today, my mug is no bad days. So a little bit different. I'm trying to stay positive, right? It's a Friday. It's feeling good. So yes, this is why we're on this one. From my hot coffee, this is the worst segue ever. From my hot coffee to hot jar. No, just me? Okay, fine. I was quite pleased with that. Hotjar is a heat map tool, basically, so it's going to give us an indication of where people are clicking on your website. So the next tip is just getting something like this on the site. Now, it doesn't have to be Hotjar. This video is not sponsored by Hotjar. There are loads of different options, and if I'm honest, Hotjar isn't my favorite one, but Hotjar for most people will probably do really well. You can add it in really easily through your Google Tag Manager, a little snippet of code, and it's going to give you things like this, and it's going to give you an indication of what people are clicking on, but also it's going to show you the areas of the website that are being completely ignored. It's really beneficial. Now, one thing to highlight with this is it does take time to build up data. So depending on how many people are visiting your site on a monthly basis, you might need a month, you might only need a week, but you might need a couple of months to get some decent data. Personally, I would say I want around kind of 6,000 to 8,000 visits as a minimum before I start to take some data off it. It'd be very easy to get like a couple of hundred, start making changes based on that. And there's just too many outlying things that can change because of those reasons. So data is definitely your best way of going. And this kind of ties really in with the next tip, and I guess this is almost like part B in all honesty, which is have a regular point every single month, or how often it takes you to get to 6,000 to 8,000 views, where you're regularly checking some of this data and looking back over it. There's no point doing this once and just thinking you fixed it. The site should be evolving, especially even just seasonality, right? Like you might have something that sells really well in January and sells poorly in November, so we might need to have a look at some of those differences. So that way you need to kind of constantly looking at how people are interacting with the site and what's happening. The other thing is there might be something new that's updated on Instagram or on TikTok, and then the way people come into your site has changed. So you need to be able to constantly analyze that to drive up those conversion rates. A nice easy one now is having a benefits bar, or probably as I would refer to it as the hello bar. And the reason I'm going to call it hello bar is because there's a piece of software called hello bar where you can just add this bar into the top of your page. To be honest, you can pay for that, or you can just get your developer to do this. It's a really easy thing for them to add into the back end of the site. And what you just do is you get them to make sure there's options for you to change the color, to change the text, and to add links in. And then that way you can fire it out wherever you want. So in this example, it just says free speaker with every order over 100, but it might be that you have a special order on and you want to push someone somewhere to say like, hey, check out this special offer here, like a Black Friday deal. Or it might be that we have some benefits to say 5-star reviews from 10,000 reviews or something exciting like that. But something that warrants being at the top of every single page to really grab attention. That's what you normally use that. And is it even physically possible for me to do a video about high converting sites and not include Gymshark? Probably not. Now, I would look ridiculous in this outfit, so let's not talk about that. But one thing I really want to highlight is this bottom bit here where it says check out securely. Just the power of having those additional kind of card logos is really good, and it's a really unproven way to increase conversion rates because it adds trust to it. It also means for people like me who never carry my wallet on me and I want to pay for Apple Pay with absolutely everything, that I know it's there available. Or if someone's a little bit unsure about whether they can afford it, the fact that they can see the Klarna logo and pay for it over 3 months is a nice way of them doing it as well. So there's some huge benefits to looking at some of these things. And that is your lot. So we've covered 10 things. I guess technically this could be 9 because it's kind of an A and a B part, but let's pretend it's 10. Because 10 sounds so much rounder. If you do like what you've got to see in this video, please give it a like as well, maybe a share, even a subscribe would be really, really appreciated. I'll see you next week. Bye.